Hello, Washington educators. Welcome to PESB's Professional Growth Plans, also known as PGP tutorial. In this video, you will get an overview of what a PGP is and how to complete it. As educators in Washington State, we are fortunate to have a professional development pathway such as PGP because PGPs are job-embedded, self-directed, and provide 25 clock hours at no cost. PGPs must be completed within a year timeframe from July 1st of one year to June 30th of the following year. PGPs can be used for certificate renewals. For paraeducators, PGPs can be used to earn or renew a certificate. With a PGP, teachers, administrators, paraeducators, and ESAs set their own goals, align them to certification standards, design an action plan, collect evidence documenting growth towards achieving their goals, and reflect on the process. For teachers, ESAs, and administrators, PGPs can be counted for certificate renewal if they are completed between your last certificate renewal and next renewal. The clock hours for PGPs for certificate renewal can be input in e-certification on an annual basis as they are completed or at any time before you renew your certificate. For paraeducators, the clock hours for PGPs to earn your general paraeducator certificate or advanced certificate can be input in e-certification anytime before you apply for your general or advanced certificate. The clock hours for PGPs to renew your subject matter certificate can be input in e-certification on an annual basis as they are completed or at any time before you renew your certificate. Perhaps you're here with a colleague or a school team to receive clock hours for professional work you are doing at your school. Maybe you're here because you're working on a specific professional goal based on your evaluation and want to earn clock hours at the same time. Or maybe like me, you find yourself here aiming to grow in your profession different from what your local or school district is offering at the moment and want a structure to support meeting your professional goals and earn clock hours. Whatever your reason for being here, welcome. While OSPI offers the clock hours, PESB oversees the process for PGPs. So let's go ahead and look at the steps to complete a professional growth plan. First, you will start on PESB's website, pesb.wa.gov. From here, click the tab Current Educators, and then Professional Growth Plans. This site offers details regarding PGPs, which will be discussed in this tutorial. Scroll down to find the PGP template labeled PESB Form 1697. Download or make a copy of the PGP template. As you can see these blocks in red, the PGP has 6 large sections: educator information, self-assessment and goal selection, intended outcomes, professional growth plan and evidence, reflection, and review. Let's walk through each of these sections. Section 1 is educator information. Type in your first and last name, certification number or birth date, district or agency, and the academic school year. Section 1 is educator information. Type in your first and last name, certification number or birth date, district or agency, and the academic school year. For example, 2022 to 2023. You may be using your PGP toward your certificate renewal. Educational leadership is for administrators. Equity-based school practices include teachers and administrators, and STEM integration is for teachers with STEM-related endorsements. You can click on each of these for more information. In order for administrators to renew their certificate, they must complete 10 clock hours or the equivalent in credit for PGPs in educational leadership. Again, if you are using your PGP to meet the educational leadership requirements for certificate renewal, you'll need to align it to the National Professional Standards for Educational Leaders. If you are renewing your certificate, it is important and necessary that your PGP goal aligns with the educational leadership framework. Teachers must complete 15 clock hours or the equivalent in equity-based school practices for certificate renewal, and administrators need to complete 10 clock hours or the equivalent. If you are using the PGP to meet the equity-based school practices requirement for certificate renewal, you'll need to align it to the Cultural Competency, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion (CCDEI) standards. Educators with STEM-related endorsements must complete at least 15 clock hours, the equivalent in credit, or at least one goal from a PGP with an emphasis on STEM integration. If you are using your PGP to meet the STEM requirements for certificate renewal, you'll need to develop a PGP goal that integrates at least 2 of the 4 STEM components. If you do not align your standards, then you are unable to check these boxes for certificate renewal. Section 2 is titled Self-Assessment and Goal Selection. A self-assessment can be a helpful tool in identifying a professional area of growth. PGP has provided self-assessments that you can use. One option is to self-assess based on your professional role. You can click the link here for self-assessment folder. Here you will see assessments categorized by professional roles such as teacher, school psychologist, nurse, and many other roles. If your interests are in the arena of SEL, the SEL self-assessment may be better suited. If your interests are equity focused, then the cultural competency, diversity, equity, and inclusion self-assessment could be a good self-assessment tool for you. As an example, as a classroom teacher, I clicked on the teacher's PGP self-assessment and read each proposition and completed the self-assessment. Just a note, these 5 core propositions come from national boards, and a link is provided for more information. You may already have a different self-assessment that is helpful to identify your area of growth. Whichever self-assessment you decide to use, you will type the name of the self-assessment in number 1. For example, you can see here, what is the name of the self-assessment you used? I typed in Teacher PGP Self-Assessment because I've chosen to use the self-assessment PGP has provided. Number 2, the self-assessment is to help you to identify an area of growth. After completing your self-assessment, you will identify which area you would like to focus on. Type that area of focus here. For example, now that I've completed the PGP self-assessment, I noticed I felt reluctant to mark proficient under Proposition 1. Teachers recognize individual differences in their students and adjust their practices accordingly. It's been on my mind and a goal that I've had to better support my multilingual learners in my class. Thus, the area of focus I identified that I want and need to grow in is in Proposition 1. Teachers are committed to students and their learning. More specifically, teachers recognize individual differences in their students and adjust their practices accordingly. That's what I've typed in here for number 2. Number 3, standards. While the self-assessment helped to identify the area of growth, it needs to align with at least one standard from the following frameworks: the CCDEI standards, SEL standards, or certificate standard that fits your professional role. Let's take a quick look at each. When viewing cultural competency standards, you can see here that there are 4 standards, and when you click the link, you can follow and scroll down to read more about each standard. When viewing the SEL standards, you can see on their document that there are 6 standards, and again, you can scroll down to read more for details. Lastly, when viewing certificate standards by role, you will see a document organized by roles and links to standards. As an example, after reading through the different standards, I noticed that I went to the National Board Standards for Teachers. When I scrolled all the way down, I went under English as a new language, and I looked at the standards available. Reading through, I saw that Standard 6, Instructional Practice, it discusses teachers' designs for supportive learning environments based on careful analysis of their students' characteristics and the linguistics and academic demands of the school. This standard seemed to align well with the previous area of focus that I've chosen. So when I go back to my template for number 3, standards, I will type in National Board Standard, English as a New Language, Standard 6, Instructional Practice. It's very important here to indicate which framework and what standard that you are drawing from. Number 4, now that we have an area of focus and identified a standard that aligns, it's time to write your professional goal. Remember, this is your goal, not a goal for your students. As educators, we are often focused on students' learning goals, but a PGP is about an educator's professional growth. What would you like to learn, and how would you like to grow this year? Your goal will support your students, but the focus is on you, the educator. For example, it might sound like, my PGP goal is to expand my methods and approaches to include students' home or primary languages during instruction. Then you're going to describe how your goal relates to your self-assessment. For example, this goal relates to my self-assessment because Proposition 1 asks for teachers to recognize individual differences in their students and adjust their practices accordingly. Each of my multilingual learners are diverse in their languages, language abilities, and funds of knowledge. By knowing each of my multilingual learners' home languages and their skills in primary language, I could adapt my instruction so that it builds on their linguistic abilities and support them to greater understanding. And lastly, how your goal relates to your focus area identified in question 2. This goal is related to my focus area identified in question 2 because it focuses on instruction. Intended outcomes. Now that we've determined the PGP goal, let's consider the intended outcomes. As a result of attaining your PGP goal, what will you be able to do that you aren't able to do now? What skills or abilities will you have improved on? For example, as a result of my professional growth, I am able to incorporate my students' home languages during instruction. Number 6, what about student outcomes? Even though your PGP goal is about the educator's goal and growth, think about what impact will attaining your professional growth have on your students. I thought, as a result of my professional growth, my students will be able to increase their comprehension input, increase their comprehension output, build meta-linguistic awareness, sustain their home languages, and gain insight to understanding different cultures and experiences. Number 7, now let's put your action plan together. You will see here the template is divided into 3 columns. The left column will be a list of activities you will engage in to support you in reaching your PGP goal. What activities will you participate in to increase your knowledge to meet your goal? The template lists some examples activities such as attending trainings, participating in a book study, researching specific information, and observing other educators. There are many other activities possible. Think and name the activities that will support you in meeting your PGP goal in the time frame you have. Thinking about your time frame and capacity is important. As educators, we try to do a lot. Keep in mind the cycle for PGP is July 1st to June 30th. You'll need to make some time before June 30th to complete your reflection and have a colleague review your PGP. So think about what activities are possible to engage in from the time now to June. Try to list the most important activities and think of what you can do in the remaining months. We recommend setting realistic goals. You may also consider talking to your reader who will sign your PGP in advance so that you both have a shared vision of what activities you will need to include to satisfy your PGP goal. In the middle column, think about what kind of evidence could you show to demonstrate your engagement with activities you listed in the left column. Again, the template offers possible evidence such as personal reflection, notes from a professional learning community, certification, etc. You could also consider student work as pieces of evidence. Let me provide you with some side-by-side examples. So my first activity identified is students' home language backgrounds by conducting student and family interviews. To demonstrate I engaged in this, I could show my interview questions and notes from my interviews. Thus, my proposed evidence are interview questions and interviewee responses. Another activity I listed was to meet with my multilingual coach and ask for resources and instructional methods to incorporate home languages in my instruction. My proposed evidence is notes from our meeting. One last activity I thought about was taking the WIDA home language online course. My proposed evidence is the certification of completion, notes, and my lesson plans. You might have the same evidence for multiple activities, and that's okay. Just be sure to list it for each activity. After completing PGP steps numbers 1 through 7, it's time to enact your PGP plan. That means engaging in all the activities you've listed, collecting evidence, and coming back to your PGP goal as often as possible to renew your focus on your goals. When you begin to enact your plan, you might find you need to make some changes. Great. This is just a plan, so come back to the template and revise as necessary. Number 9, as you start engaging in your activities or after you've completed an activity, you'll come back to complete the right column. This column is to list and describe the evidence that you did actually collect and could include the impact it made on your students. If you collected all the proposed evidence, great. You can write that in this column. But sometimes you might have collected evidence different from what you proposed. Perhaps you didn't collect your proposed evidence, but have something different to demonstrate your engagement with your activity. Write that here. As an example, when I look at my second activity, I have proposed to include notes from meeting with my multilingual coach. However, I forgot to take some notes, but I have engaged in this activity. So what I use to propose my evidence is lesson plans that incorporate the new approaches to instruction that was discussed in my meeting with my multilingual coach. And that is a document of evidence collected. Number 10, reflection. Finally, let's imagine a few months have now passed and you've engaged in all of your listed activities, collected your evidence, listed them, and had some time to look at it. It's time to reflect on your professional learning and think about next steps. You'll begin to answer the following questions. What did you learn through the various activities you completed? What was the outcome of your professional learning? What can you do now that you didn't before, or what professional skills or abilities did you improve? What impact did or will your professional learning and growth have on students? What are the next steps you might take to guide your future professional growth? Review. Lastly, your PGP will need to be reviewed by an educator with a Washington State certificate. This can be a teacher, administrator, ESA, or paraeducator. The reviewer does not need to be your supervisor or evaluator. Please make sure that you and the reviewer read what you are both attesting to before signing. The reviewer will review your PGP and evidence and provide a signature and date here. Now, moving on to submission. Once an educator has signed your PGP, you will complete and submit the verification form and submit it to your district for consideration for salary advancement. Districts have the discretion whether they will consider clock hours towards salary advancement for their employees. After this, you can record an OSPI e-certification to claim the 25 clock hours for certification renewal. PGPs do not need to be sent to OSPI, PESB, or turned into your district unless your district requires you provide them with a copy of your PGP. Make sure that you save your PGP records for 7 years, as this is required by state law. If you'd like to see more examples pertaining to your specific professional roles, take a look at the PGP videos by roles below. Also, PESB has a helpful PGP frequently asked questions and a PGP website with additional information. If you have further questions, please contact Leilani or Mackenzie at the email addresses here. Thank you.